Theory, or Therzinosaurus, was my favorite herbivore since basically childhood. I got a boost of passion into theorizing what could come of this tricky boy based on the concept art. First thing that caught my eye was this. A well-deserved lacerated aloe, with the angy big boy turkey screaming at it because aloe's overhyped. Oh, sorry, I meant to say aloe's cool. Sad it got so destroyed by this theory in the concept. Such a shame. So back to the point of this image. It sparked the idea of that after a few claw slashes, maybe depending on the size of theory to the thing it's attacking, smaller thing, less swipes, bigger thing, more swipes, where each slash will still deal good bleed, but will apply the heavily lacerated effect, which will make that you can't just simply heal out the bleed by resting or just, sitting, hiding somewhere, but you have to wallow in mud to stop it like normal bleed. But for being heavily lacerated, you have to find a mud pool, or else you're just gonna bleed out slowly. And I feel like that the heavily lacerated bleed should drain slower than like standard bleed draining, something like that, is a set slow bleed out. So you still have time to find a mud pool, to wallow yourself in it, to patch up the wounds, and to remove the effect and heal yourself. And hopefully with Gateway, there will be more and conveniently placed mud pools to make it not a complete death sentence each time you get attacked by a Theory. This will help with Theory deterring predators, and without just its pure raw damage from its claws, where if the dinosaur is bigger, it could risk just bleeding out just because it picked the wrong spot to fight with the Therizinosaur, which I feel like will kind of fulfill its big glass cannon playstyle back in Legacy. That would kind of, work out pretty well with dishing out lots of bleed and damage, but itself still being a pretty fragile animal. Other things that intrigued me was the use of the Theory's fluffy bottom. If you get the reference, good for you. With these two sections of the concept art, it shows what the purpose of the tail will be. The baby's hiding under or within it, and the Giga taking a bite of the tail fluff, receiving a mouthful of feathers, giving the Theory time to run away. Which, by the way, I think it should keep some aspect of its legacy speediness, especially with it being a glass cannon, so if it's not sure with fully dishing out a bunch of damage and maybe even killing it or just, deterring the predator, then it could, kind of run off because it's around 5 tons to 6 tons. That's what the devs are planning to set it based on some unofficial sources, but that's like the general range that it probably will be. But with these two things, it sets up that it will make it that anything under the Theory's tail, i.e. its babies, will make the tail feathers block a bite from a predator, kind of like a separate hitbox that overcloses anything within that hitbox. Only that outer layer of hitbox gets hit, other than the hitboxes of the playables within it. That's, I guess, how it could work. Where with the predator biting, its mouth would be full of a tuft of the Theory's feathers, while not harming the Theory at all. Additionally, I would say it could make it, if the attack was a bite, then the predator will have to, select like E, like the same for like Hipsy's blinding effect, where instead of rubbing off the spit, the carnivore will have to spit out the feathers, giving more time for the Theory to get a better position on attacking it, or just getting extra damage in and bleed, or fling. But like I said, this will be mostly for the Theory's babies being under the tail, so it probably will be more attacking. But, that's just kind of the concept of this. Then these two parts of the art with the Theory impaling things, within being more stuff that are downward, like pinning the Dilophosaurus and the little short Troodons being picked off the ground. And I feel like Theory will have the same thing as Packy, where when you look down, you do a different sort of ram-based attack where it just pummels down on the ground. And for Theory, it will be the same thing with it looking down instead of slashing with its claws, you know, swinging it side to side, you know, something like that, to just jabbing all the way till near the ground or into it, pinning anything small enough into its claws, like the Dilophosaurus or the Troodon. And the ripping part with the Dilophosaurus image, it can work by just like maybe holding left click for the Theory to do some sort of animation if it has something in its claws to either toss it away or rip it in half and toss those two parts. I don't know, something like that. But also, like, if it's small enough, like for the Troodon, then it will kind of stay on less time than the Stegos Thagomizers, but still like on them and then just kind of plop down. You know, just little stuff like that. And definitely there will be blood on those claws after that, for sure. The cutting foliage with the claws seems random and kind of meaningless. There really isn't anything in that image to just kind of show out. It's like, oh, that's why. It was just more, it's just cutting down things. But this kind of hinted at like big dinosaurs interacting with the environment. Like for example, recently on a stream, we were shown the Rex breaking down gates. Here's the footage. And so that's probably going to be kind of the same thing with Theory, which is kind of cutting down certain foliages to either make certain paths or just maybe even be something part of its diet where it's just an animation for cutting down certain plants and then eating them. I don't know. Something. It's very random, but it looks cool. That's why it's in the concept art, probably. But speaking of diets, I feel like Theory would be a very fruit-savvy herbivore, going for mangoes and bananas to maybe some other tree-based fruit, or maybe some ground or bush level fruits like melons and oranges, for example. But I feel like its diet should revolve more around fruits, especially with its long neck and like claws to like bend down branches. Just as concept wise, kind of makes sense. I don't know. It feels like something that would just eat a bunch of fruit because it's so fancy and pompous. But overall, I think Theory should be a creature that minds its own business, you know, doing its thing, but is able to deter predators from it or its babies in coverage, the whole tail thing, bleed, or just pure raw damage in a very angry manner. So it kind of will make predators kind of, you know, think twice of like attacking it. Even if it's smaller than an apex, I still think that apexes should, you know, think twice about going after it because they might just bleed out if they get in the wrong place, like I already talked about with the heavily lacerated effect. And even if things go wrong, the Theory could still try running away with its higher speed for its size, because it being fairly fragile, it can't stay in a fight for long. But that's the general thoughts I have for it, so leave your thoughts and additional suggestions in the comments, and see ya!